The idea that a shooting like that would go by without any serious investigation, let alone prosecution, remains one of the outrages of January 6th. So I've talked about how previously Judicial Watch is the leader, or not previously, is the leader when it comes to disclosing government misconduct. And Congress often follows our lead. And to the degree they are able to uncover certain information, it's usually because they follow our lead, if not specifically on the issue, but our approach, meaning they've gotten much more aggressive in recent years, certainly the Republicans have, because the Judicial Watch shows there are many documents to be had, but you've got to be insistent about getting them. And that's what we do effectively through our Freedom of Information Act and our other investigations. On one of these important issues, the Ashli Babbitt killing, Judicial Watch has been the leader. There's been no one who's been able to uncover more about the Ashli Babbitt shooting than Judicial Watch. And sure enough, we have a lawsuit we filed at the beginning of this year for Ashli Babbitt's estate, her family, a $30 million wrongful death action against the federal government. And this comes after several years of exposing more details of the shooting death of Ashli Babbitt that was it was so wild in terms of what happened that day. I see that video and it just makes me so upset to see that Lieutenant Byrd popped out, ambushed, and shot her. Let's play that video of There's not a law enforcement officer who's honest in the land who would look at that shooting and think that was a good shooting. He fired blindly at Ashli into a crowd. Other law enforcement personnel were around her. Civilians were around her. And the idea that a shooting like that would go by without any serious investigation, let alone prosecution, remains one of the outrages of January 6th. That's the key outrage of January 6th, despite what you hear about insurrection and Donald Trump and all the left-wing garbage about it. That's the outrage. And finally, years after Judicial Watch got key information, and almost a year after we sued over this, Congress started this week releasing some more information about the shooter, Lieutenant Byrd, who, by the way, has been promoted to captain. And our friends at Just the News broke the story of a letter by Congressman Loudermilk. The headline from the Just the News piece is "Cop who fatally shot January 6th protester has lengthy disciplinary record that includes gun incidents." And the story is based on a letter written by Barry Loudermilk, who was investigating January 6th for the Republicans in Congress. And he uncovered some pretty astonishing stuff, some of which Judicial Watch has already uncovered, but they provide additional details about related to Byrd's disciplinary record and prior conduct. And when you hear about this letter, and I'm going to read it in some detail, you're going to wonder, why is he even allowed in the Capitol, given how dangerous a person he seems to be? The letter's dated November 20th. So it was just filed earlier this week. It was sent to the Chief of Police for the United States Capitol Police by Loudermilk, Chief J. Thomas Manger. You can see there, Manger or Manger, I don't know how it's pronounced. So I'm going to get into the heart of the letter. So Congressman Loudermilk is the chairman of the Subcommittee on Oversight for the Committee on House Administration. Now that may sound like a boring committee, but the House Administration Committee is kind of like the council, the town council for Congress. It helps with the operations and managing the operations of the U.S. Capitol and the House. And so they were looking at some of these January 6th issues. And I'm not saying they looked at it enough. I'm not saying they acted quickly enough, but at least they got some additional information. So for that, we're grateful, even if it is just following up on some of the material the Judicial Watch already uncovered. The subcommittee has learned that Captain Byrd was referred to the United States Capitol Police Office of Professional Responsibility in 2004 for a Prince George's County, Maryland, for an incident in Prince George's County, Maryland, in which then Sergeant Byrd discharged his service weapon at a fleeing vehicle. Now that was first uncovered and disclosed by Judicial Watch in our lawsuit earlier this year. So 9, 10 months later, Congress is confirming it with some additional details. On April 5th, 2004, this is, I guess, 20 years ago now, right? Byrd and his wife were woken at their home by a loud banging noise coming from outside their residence. According to Byrd, he observed 2 vans parked outside his neighbor's house. Byrd then retrieved his U.S. Capitol Police credentials and service weapon and went outside to investigate further. So far, sane. According to Byrd, the first van accelerated toward him in an apparent attempt to hit him. Byrd claimed he shouted, "Stop," and fired 2 rounds at the oncoming vehicle, which is important in terms of having a basis to shoot. It's a self-defense move, right? According to the OPR investigation, Byrd's neighbor, who was also present, said he was in the line of fire when Byrd discharged his service weapon. Boy, does that remind you of something he subsequently did on January 6th? All sorts of people being innocent and being in the line of fire, let alone Ashli being innocent and being in the line of fire. Byrd claimed that after firing at the oncoming vehicle, he jumped out of the way, but that the second vehicle then drove toward Byrd in another attempt to hit him. According to Byrd, he then fired a single round into the driver's side windshield and then jumped out of the way. So one witness says it was a negligent discharge. I mean, that's the way I read it. Now, Byrd says he was firing at these cars coming at him in self-defense. But listen to this. After this encounter, Prince George's County Police found both vans and conducted a search of the vehicles. There was no bullet holes in either van's windshield. Police did find, however, a bullet hole near the gas cap of the second van. Police determined the bullet entered the van from a rear angle, indicating the van was shot at from behind. One of the investigating officers observed that, based on where the bullet was found, where's the threat? Because it was in the driver's side rear quarter panel. So according to this police review and the Office of Professional Responsibility review, it looks like, based on the forensic evidence, Byrd was wrong. I mean, maybe he misremembered it. I'm being fair. Maybe I shouldn't be fair. But the evidence doesn't show he shot at the vehicles when they were coming towards him. OPR noted that based on the location of the shell casings and the angle that Sergeant Byrd alleged he discharged a service weapon, Byrd's testimony that he fired at the vans as they attempted to hit him is inaccurate, right? That's the most charitable way to put it. OPR concluded that the evidence suggests Byrd discharged a service weapon at the vans after they passed him by. Despite this, the United States Capitol Police noted that the investigation found insufficient evidence to determine Byrd violated their truthfulness policy. So there's the first possible pass that the Capitol Police gave Byrd. At the conclusion of the investigation, OPR determined that Byrd violated the use of force policy at the Capitol Police and the use of weapon policy by discharging his weapon in a careless and imprudent manner. Specifically, they concluded that Byrd improperly discharged a service weapon while his neighbor was in the line of fire and after both stolen vehicles had passed by him. Well, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not litigating the case, although we're representing Ashli Babbitt, Judicial Watch lawyers. You can imagine how important and interesting this might be in terms of what happened to Ashli Babbitt. I mean, you don't have to be a lawyer to figure that out. I mean, this guy, according to the OPR, their own internal watchdog at the Capitol Police, found that he negligently discharged his weapon in a way that put someone at risk and gave inaccurate testimony about what happened. OPR also noted that the Maryland state prosecutor assigned to the incident determined Byrd used, quote, bad judgment, unquote. Again, important, in his actions responding to the carjacking. Additionally, following the review, Inspector Yancey Garner sent a memo to Chief Terrence Gainier, who was the U.S. Capitol Police Chief at the time, concurring with OPR's findings. Despite both OPR and the Inspector Garner concluding Byrd violated policy, an appeal to the Disciplinary Review Board subsequently overruled the findings and ruled that Byrd did not violate policy. As a result, this incident is reflected as not sustained in Byrd's OPR record. In 2015, this is another troubling incident. Then Lieutenant Byrd, so he's gotten promoted from sergeant to lieutenant since 2004 through 2015, was referred to OPR for an incident involving a verbal altercation in a high school football game in Montgomery County, Maryland. In Montgomery County, if you think of D.C. as a little bit of a diamond, right? Montgomery County is up in the northwest quadrant, a big county north of the district. The biggest county, and I think it's the biggest county population-wise outside Baltimore, maybe bigger than Baltimore, I don't know. But it's a big county. Montgomery County Police Department assigned at least 2 officers to provide security at that game to prevent spectators from walking onto the field and ensure visitors remained in the stands. Shortly after the start of the game, Byrd approached one of the officers and asked if there was another officer stationed on the other side of the field, stopping spectators from walking on to the field. What business of it is his, how the police are being deployed? Wait till you see what he did, or is alleged to have done, right? After the officer informed Byrd of his responsibility to keep spectators off the track, Byrd reportedly became argumentative with the officer and began yelling profanities at the officer, calling him a piece of sugar. He didn't say sugar, though. A-hole and racist. Byrd then accused the officer of targeting, quote, the black side of the field, unquote, and then jumped the fence, came onto the track, and confronted the officer. I mean, he's lucky that officer kept his head about him. Around this time, another Montgomery County police officer heard Byrd yelling at his partner, approached Byrd, and attempted to de-escalate the situation. Even after separating from the officer, Byrd continued to scream obscenities. After he calmed down, Byrd spoke to the police officer's partner, identified himself as a lieutenant with the Capitol Police, and gave the officer his business card. Based on statements received from Byrd and the 2 MCPD officers, the Montgomery County police officers, OPR determined that Byrd called one of the officers a racist a-hole and repeatedly used vulgar and abusive language. OPR found Byrd's charge of conduct unbecoming to be sustained, and as a result, he was suspended for 7 days without pay. So Byrd acted in a way, to put it charitably, that was, quote, unbecoming, and was basically told to stay home without pay for 7 days. So significant issue. And there are more details about something else that Byrd did that's very concerning, which is him leaving a gun in a bathroom at the Capitol Visitor Center. In 2019, this is just 2 years or less than 2 years before he shot and killed our client, poor Ashli Babbitt, a 14-year veteran of the Air Force. Then Lieutenant Byrd was referred to OPR for leaving his loaded service weapon in a bathroom in the Capitol Visitor Center. So the Capitol Visitor Center was a wasteful monstrosity built by Congress to basically funnel visitors into the Capitol through this big hall and visitor center. It was built under the east face of the Capitol, so the entrance is almost a full block away from the Capitol building itself. So it's a big space, and but everyone's walking around there. If you're visiting the Capitol as a tourist, you enter through that area, and all those restrooms are widely available to the public. I was just there a few weeks ago. You know, there are thousands of people milling about on busy days there. At the time, then Lieutenant Byrd was the commander of the House Chambers section of the U.S. Capitol Police, responsible for ensuring the House chamber was adequately patrolled. His weapon was left unattended in a public restroom for approximately 55 minutes before it was discovered by another officer. After OPR's finding that sustained the charge for, quote, violating, quote, compliance with directives and issued weapons and ammunition, Byrd was suspended for another 33 days without pay. So Byrd, as of 2019, had been suspended twice from the U.S. Capitol Police Department, once for 7 days without pay, for essentially assaulting a police officer who was doing his duty, verbally assaulting them. Although I would read some of what he did to be potentially physical assault. He probably got a pass because the cops knew he was a cop in the end. If he were a regular parent, I bet you he would have been arrested. And then he was, again, suspended 33 days. So now that's 40 days in total this guy had been kept off the force, suspended without pay. And if that doesn't make you think that maybe he shouldn't have been even in the position to shoot Ashli Babbitt, I don't know what would. I mean, those of you who are in law enforcement or even in the military, I mean, to be punished like that, it's pretty unusual. You know that. But it gets worse because there were more issues, but the records are missing. According to Barry Loudermilk, Capitol Police records indicate 3 additional OPR referrals against Byrd. However, the records related to those investigations are reportedly missing. And Byrd calls it disappointing. I would call it something else. Of course, they've been missing, you know, this is what's frustrating about this. They were told those documents were missing on January 30th, 2024. And we're only finding out about it now. So it's disappointing it took 10 months to get this out. No, it's 11 months. It's November. It's not. I keep on thinking it's October. It's November. And then what happened after the shooting? You're going to be infuriated. As Loudermilk writes, in addition to the decision to promote Byrd despite his disciplinary history, I also have concerns about the decisions the Capitol Police made with respect to Byrd after January 6, 2021, when he needlessly shot and killed our client Ashli Babbitt. For example, following January 6, the Capitol Police provided Byrd with an unrestricted $36,000 bonus as part of a retention agreement in August of 2021. It was almost like a reward, wasn't it? But listen, it's unclear if Byrd even signed the retention agreement. And the U.S. Capitol Police offered all other officers, including those who suffered physical injuries on January 6th, significantly smaller retention bonuses. The U.S. Capitol Police bulletin obtained by the subcommittee indicates that around the same time Byrd received his retention bonus, Other officers were offered only $3,000. So this guy shoots an unarmed woman blindly who is in a crowd, and he gets a retention bonus of $36,000. Other officers are significantly injured that day, and they get only $3,000? Who does he know over in the police department or in Congress to allow this to go on? I bet you Nancy Pelosi had something to do with this. I mean, it's so egregious that only some, the speaker or someone around her got this done. That's how I feel about it. I'm just speculating, but in June 2022, almost a year after Byrd received his retention bonus, U.S. Capitol Police offered officers an additional $8,000 retention bonus, $8,000 retention bonus. And it's not clear if he already got those bonuses. So if he got those bonuses. So it's possible, according to Loudermilk, he didn't just get $36,000. He might have gotten as much as 36 and 3 is 39 and 8 is $47,000. The Capitol Police also plan to use the Memorial Fund to pay for Byrd's expenses, including any lost overtime resulting from his missing work following January 6th. The Memorial Fund is a fund for officers injured or killed in the line of duty. According to internal police documents, the U.S. Capitol Police plan to submit Byrd's Memorial Fund proposal ahead of any other Memorial Fund payment, including ahead of 90 injured officers. Now, did he have PTSD or some type of trauma as a result of killing unlawfully, in my view? Ashli Babbitt, maybe. So was he technically injured? Maybe. But pretty controversial move by the Capitol Police, showing favoritism, it looks like, at least on the surface, for Lieutenant Byrd. Additionally, the police department helped Byrd set up a GoFundMe in November 2021, which raised over $164,000 for him. Capitol Police ultimately decided not to formally propose a payment to Byrd from the Memorial Fund after his GoFundMe raised significantly more money than Byrd would have received from the Memorial Fund. So thankfully, well, the Memorial Fund didn't give money to Byrd, even though they were going to, because the police department was involved directly in getting the public to give Byrd money, despite his record of misconduct and his involvement in this shooting. Are you aware of any other officer who was involved in a controversial shooting getting help from the police department to raise money through GoFundMe? I'm not. The Capitol Police also spent $21,000 on security upgrades on Byrd's personal home. In addition, starting in July 2021, the Capitol Police provided Byrd with a total of 6 months of housing at local hotels and the Distinguished Visitors Quarters at Joint Base Andrews. And of course, that was first uncovered by Judicial Watch, that he basically got housing at the Pentagon's base out in Maryland, Joint Base Andrews. It's a major base here in D.C. area. It's where the president flies in and out of. Other VIPs, it's where the president's and the VIP Air Force wing for other high-level government officials is maintained, so it's well known in the area. And Byrd was set up down there, and we uncovered this. Pull up the press release when we uncovered this. In October, Judicial Watch News uncovered details of Ashli Babbitt shooter special housing at Joint Base Andrews. So we found out about this. Scroll down a little bit to the first paragraph. So we sued in October, and I guess we had received information, as I recall, that Byrd was housed there in the immediate period after he killed Babbitt. And so we subsequently sued and got more details on it. So it's good to see that Congress 2 years later starts releasing details about it. We had uncovered it 2 years ago. In addition, Byrd also had a dignitary protection detail from the U.S. Capitol Police when he left the secure base. On at least one occasion in September of 2021, the security detail escorted him to a cigar lounge where he stayed out until 1:30, necessitating extended DBD coverage, security detail coverage. Additionally, the Capitol Police instructed Byrd not to sit for a fitness for duty evaluation following January 6, 2021. The police were concerned that Byrd may fail the fitness for duty evaluation and that if Byrd failed, he would not be permitted to carry his service weapon. However, even though the Capitol Police were concerned Byrd may fail his fitness for duty evaluation, they thought it would be more important for Byrd to have his weapon for personal protection. So the public was put at risk by the U.S. Capitol Police doing another favor for Byrd. They thought he was not going to be fit to serve, and they allowed him to keep a government weapon nevertheless, and prevented him from having to go through what it looks like every other police officer in the U.S. Capitol Police has to go through in terms of fitness to serve evaluations. In September 2021, Byrd attempted to personally purchase a shotgun, but failed to pass the background check required by federal law. Byrd subsequently sought the U.S. Capitol Police's help in resolving the issue with his background check. After learning that Byrd failed his background check, the U.S. Capitol Police took steps to provide him with a U.S. Capitol Police-issued shotgun. So much for gun control laws. I mean, the Capitol Police were trying to evade gun control laws. It intended to lend him a shotgun even if his background check did not come through. But ultimately, Byrd failed his shotgun proficiency and was not provided the shotgun. So even they couldn't get around that. I mean, he couldn't handle the weapon properly, so they didn't give it to him, thank God. And then it looks like he was working or not working and still getting paid. Shortly after January 6th, they placed Byrd on administrative leave and ultimately removed him from administrative leave at the end of June 2021. So he was on administrative leave from January after he killed Ashli Babbitt. No benefits to the family from the government, right? But the cop got benefits. He got time off for 6 months. Byrd signed a telework agreement on July 2021, which allowed him to telework 5 days a week, but he did not return to work. Despite this, Byrd was not disciplined. Instead, the Capitol Police retroactively provided Byrd with administrative leave for the days he refused to work in July and August of 2021. Then they encouraged officers to donate their annual leave to Byrd in an internal bulletin. Byrd did not return to work until December 2021, months after he signed the telework agreement and nearly a year after January 6th. Yet he was never referred to OPR discipline for not working. Based on the above information, it appears USCP treated Byrd more favorably than other officers. However, it is unclear why they took these actions. This subcommittee is dedicated to ensuring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they want more questions. They want more answers, including how the heck he became a captain. Now, I normally don't spend as much time as I did reading government letters like this, but you're not going to hear this from the media. John reported it, and John Sullivan reported it in Just the News. But, you know, think of all the noise you've heard about January 6th. Think of all the investigations. There's been no investigation but for Judicial Watch and now follow on by Congress of the only official homicide victim and how that happened on January 6th. Ashli Babbitt is the only official homicide victim, meaning the only victim that authorities have found died as a result of a homicide. I love that picture of Ashli. That's another nice one. Her husband, Aaron, is a widower. There he is there with her. Her mom is out all the time trying to help the January 6ers in prison while advocating for justice for Ashli, Nikki. So this is pretty horrible stuff, and it's important you understand what the U.S. Capitol Police have done. And this is not something they've done on their own. I guarantee you, there's Democratic Party political machinations that's protected Byrd from the get-go here, even before January 6, 2021, when Ashli was killed. So my guess is there's political corruption and speculation, but I'm allowed to speculate. I'm allowed to guess based on this evidence. And the evidence to me is that he had an angel in the Democratic Party somewhere in the House. And they allowed him to skate repeatedly on these disciplinary issues. And rather than being let go or being put in a less serious position or in a position where he wouldn't be able to harm the public, he continued to get better and better positions till eventually he was in charge of security at the House side on that day. And he killed Ashli. And if he had been handled properly, according to their own disciplinary standards, he probably wouldn't have been there. How did that happen? And this goes to the heart of much of our lawsuit, and we're going to be fighting about this. A trial has been set for 2026, but the issues related to, the negligence here, the government's still fighting us tooth and nail on it. That may not even be part of the trial. So I think I've done a public service, and Judicial Watch has done a public service just by telling you about a letter from Congress. So the next time you hear about January 6th, think of Lieutenant Byrd firing wildly at fleeing cars. Think about Lieutenant Byrd using racial epithets against a police officer at a football game and getting punished without pay for 7 days as a result. Think about him leaving a gun behind in a public restroom and getting punished 33 days without pay as a result. And how the heck this guy was in a position to kill Ashli is just unbelievable to me. And thankfully, Judicial Watch has this case right now. And of course, the Biden people, they, if it were anyone else, if the politics were different, because we've seen it in big cities, that the victims of police shootings, and there's controversy around the police shootings, the cities never even fight the cases. Here, this case is being fought tooth and nail by the Biden people, the Biden Justice Department. So the question is, will there be a different approach by the Trump administration? I hope so. Because Ashli Babbitt deserves justice. Her family deserves justice. And the truth needs to be vindicated. And I think there's a public safety issue related to Lieutenant Byrd's activities on the Capitol Hill Police. So I'll let you know. The case is proceeding. We've got hearings and other matters coming up, so we're going to be in discovery, meaning taking evidence and testimony soon. I think we already are in discovery. It's just a question of when we get the documents and when we're going to be able to take testimony. So stay tuned. So what do you think? Is it an important case? I think it is. I think this, I was just going to do the general look at the press release here or look at John's story and let's just move it along. Then I read the letter. I'm like, I got to share this with our supporters. They're not going to believe this. They're not going to believe this. And I encourage you specifically to share this video with your friends and your family about what really happened on January 6th and the man behind the shooting of Ashli Babbitt. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.